Close your eyes. Now let's just pay attention to the senses and don't try to put them all together, which is that's the wonderful patterning that human beings are so good at. It. We're better at reading patterns, at making patterns and reading patterns than any other animal. That's why we're in charge. So, but let's not use the patterns for just a moment. The only thing we want to notice right now, and there's not a we that's noticing it, it's just happening, is how do you know that you are right now? How do you know that you exist? You can't say you can, well, you can just look around because our eyes are closed. You can't do that. So you can say, well, I can hear. Well, who's the I? We haven't gotten to an I yet. What I want you to do is, instead of all that, I just want you to notice that there are sensations. There are sensations here that are building a story. That there's a body in a chair with its hands on the arms, and that there are sensations in the fingers of the hand of the person in the chair, and on and on. That's all story. You cannot find there's sensations. What else are there? Can I say that I am because there are memories? We haven't even established that you are. We've established that there's a sense of being. And now we can say there's a sense of sensation. But at this point, that is unowned. It's just a sensation. It's a sense of sensation. There's a sense of sensation only because prior to the sense of sensation, there's a sense of being. I am is not all the way back. It's a goodly way back, and it's an important recognition. And people can come to see the I am of things, and their lives change for the better, typically. And it's a wonderful occasion. And in my mind, it's what I would call everyday enlightenment or everyday awakening. But that's not the end. What happens is, if we can just notice that this tingling arises only because there's a sense of being that the tingling cannot arise without. How about thoughts? Can the thoughts arise in the absence of the sense of being? No. What can be in the absence of the sense of being? Nothing. So does that mean that you are, or does it mean there's a sense of being? I believe that if you really look at it, and you're welcome to investigate it. I've done it for many years. Investigate it and ask yourself, which is more true right now for me to report? Is it more true for me to report that I am? Or is it more true for me to report that there's a sense of being? The sense of being is not a statement. I am is a statement. The sense of being is exactly that. It's just a sense. It doesn't mean that there's any being behind it. My friend has a sense of dog, if you remember that story. But there's no dog in my front yard. That's what he finally tells. When I can't find one, he's trying to show it to me. Finally tells me, Fred, it's just a sense of dog. So the sense of a dog doesn't mean that there is a dog in the front yard. Doesn't mean anything. It just means there's a sense of being. There's a sense that there's a dog in the yard. Can that sense of a dog arise prior to the sense of being? The sense of being is non-specific. There's no I, and there's not even an am. The sense of being itself is a sense of amming but nobody can claim it. And it's not even true. It's not necessarily true. We just let the story be there. But we don't want to reach too many hard and fast conclusions here, or we'll be lying to ourselves. So my question is, in the absence of the sense of being, what can be known? The sense of being and consciousness are essentially the same. Prior to the entry of a body, the sense of being is always explored through an agent. It's always experienced through an agent. My dogs have a sense of being, but they don't have a sense of I'm being Willie. It's just they know. He knows which end the food goes in because there's a sense of fore and aft. There's a sense of a lot of things, but there can't be a sense of anything if there's not first the sense of being. The sense of being is not as far back as we can go, or it's not as far back as could be gone by something, but as far back as we can actually get and report on. But if you will stick with the sense of being, and if you want clarity, I've said this for years, nobody pays much attention, or very few. The only thing you really have to do, and this is so boring, which is why nobody will do it, and because it's not as satisfying to ego, all you really need to do is notice the sense of being as often as you can. Take 10 minutes, notice the sense of being. Take 2 breaths, notice the sense of being. Take a walk, notice the sense of being. A bus ride, notice the sense of being. Sit down in a chair, notice the sense of being. Notice the sense of existence here. There's a sense that I feel like I'm on a walk, whatever that is. In the absence of language, there's no such thing as taking a walk. In the absence of language, there's not anything distinct. There's no chair and no person. If you will just notice that this sense of being, it's really the only thing that actually can be known, but we can't find a knower to it. That's the difference. When I say I am, that's a statement. It's a statement of an I, and I'm amming. It's a subject and a verb, or a subject and a verb, or a noun, depending on how you look at it. But with this, just noticing the sense of being, everything is out the window. There's just this sense of being. We would very much love to understand this sense of being, but you can't, because the sense of being is as far as consciousness goes. What happens prior to consciousness is none of consciousness's business. But consciousness cannot believe that. So it is always pushing to figure this out. What's really there? How does this really work? I mean, do you need to know? I'm just going to suggest that if you needed to know how all of this worked, you'd know. But it's impossible to know. You know, what is that? There's 165 pounds of flesh over here. 3 pounds of that is brain. And a part of that is relegated to the senses. And this is what I think I know. I think I know everything in the universe about. I'm a very self-satisfied astrophysicist or something. And I know it all. No. Mm-mm. What you know is that there's a sense of being. Everything else is story. Life is a story. Notice that there's no life prior to the sense of being. The sense of being is life itself. You're not living life. Life is living you. The sense of being is being experienced through that body. It can't be experienced in the absence of a unit. So how does this all begin? I don't know, but I can tell you that it's somewhere with keeping the don't know attitude and the don't know and the truth of the don't know attitude. I can tell you that there's an understanding or a suspicion that somehow that units, and the sense of being, which is the sense of being is what? It's consciousness. That units and consciousness have to arrive hand in glove, because consciousness can't be experienced in the absence of a unit, and a unit has no experience in the absence of consciousness. So it's some kind of hand in glove thing that happens. But it's not happening to Fred, and it's not Fred's sense of being. There's no Fred. There's just a sense of being, and eventually mind will narrow that sensing being down, and it will listen to the stories and participate in the stories. And now mind, which is consciousness, is teaching consciousness, just like your parents in the form of consciousness told you this is how consciousness works. This is how the world works. And then they pass down the same lie that they were taught. And it's a good lie. There's nothing wrong with it. But we don't want to believe it. We can just notice it and respect it and enjoy it. But we don't have to believe it. We don't have to fear this. You are the unborn. This body and sense of being, all that is story. You are the unborn. What does the unborn know? Speaking now as the unborn, I can somehow say, even though I am the unborn, there is dreaming. I can't say it's my dreaming, but there is dreaming. That's what I can state. There's dreaming, because there's the dream in which all of these stories occur, and all of these, and we build the whole world on the framework and the foundation of the sense of being. That's the only thing. If you will notice, what is the one thing that we dread about death? We're going to lose the sense of being. That's your most valuable asset. It's really your only asset. The rest of these assets that we were talking about, like pictures and stuff, paintings and stuff like that, all the objects, they're coming and going. They're of no real value in the end. It's a nice story. Enjoy the story. Enrich the story. Buy a car in the story. Buy clothes in the story. Whatever it is. Whatever happens is not your doing. Everything's happening exactly as it must. There's no such thing as should. Everything is happening exactly as it must, because there's only one thing going on, and there's no room there for comparison. There's no room there for alternative, and there's no room for better or more. So we rest in the sense of being, noticing. We don't even know what's resting in the sense of being. And is that really true that we're resting in the sense of being? No, that's still a story. The sense of being is resting. It's still capable of feeling sensation and this and that and the other, but it's not going to introduce itself onto the scene. That sense of being gets lit up, and that is the spark of consciousness. Is the sense of being and the consciousness are hand in glove. They come together, and so does the unit. Any unit, bird unit, tree unit, it makes no difference. We can't say that anything is not alive, because there is only life. There is much life that we as human beings, as these little insects on the back ass of the universe, can't understand. But the foolishness is that we try. And it doesn't mean that science is foolish, but it does mean that if I take my science home with me, and I'm fixing myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I'm really out in the cosmos thinking about all this, and I'm getting jelly on the counter, then I'm not here. I'm thinking of a there, but there's no there. There's only here. If you open your eyes, you'll see there's jelly on the counter. You won't see starships.